Welcome to Explore, Explain, Highlights. In this highlights package, we'll be looking at Season 1, Episode 1, with our guest, Maarten Lambrechts, discussing the project, why Budapest, Warsaw, and Lithuania split themselves in two.
Yeah, Matt had a very big influence on the final outcome of this piece. So in the beginning, I was just generating visuals and ideas to see what storyline we could use, and Matt and his team um, just listened to me, but then also directed me into some kind of direction that I think was the most interesting. So I made a lot of sketches and draft versions of the piece, which we discussed together, and they helped me a lot in focusing on what it was really interesting. And also they helped me a lot with editing. The initial piece was much longer, and they helped me in reducing the text and focusing the story. So yeah, I really have to thank them because it's also because of their work that I think the piece now really works.
So the influence there was more editorial, perhaps, than it was in a design sense, which is really, I think it's a really strong way that we can work collaboratively with people to get them to sharpen our mind about what to include and what to exclude sometimes, which is not always easy for us when we have that single perspective. The inner London region seemed to be a notable outlier, and the sort of outlier that causes problems. It is quite significantly a outlier value. Um, at what point did you think, right, how do I handle this? Were you ever tempted to even remove it? I mean, we'll come on to the composition choices later in terms of the scaling, but how did this materialize in your thought process about handling the outlier values?
Well, it was quite obvious when I first made this chart that I need to do something with that outlier over there, because it's obscuring all the details in the data for the other regions. So yeah, one option would be to just not show it, but I think that wouldn't be true to the data. So I decided to highlight it and use it in the story to explain really what the data is about, and why this a specific region is special. And then I tell to my readers, okay, you know that this is an outlier now. We're going to remove it, and we're going to zoom in on the other regions to see the details for the other regions. So I explicitly didn't want to leave it out, but because it's all animated and interactive, I could weave it into the story, the outlier, and also the removal of the outlier. Also, when we were thinking about adding other maps, like I was describing the map showing the importance of regional funds for each region, I used different color palettes. But in the end, I went with a color brewer palette. So color brewer is a very handy tool that you can use to pick colorblind friendly color palettes. So I use a diverging color palette from color brewer, and I also wanted to make it yeah, very bright and alive color palette, just to contrast it with the kind of boring topic that those regional funds are. So I picked one with some very bright pink and live green in it, just to make it more lively. And the technique of using the background of text to say something about a chart or a map is something that I use regularly. But here, yeah, the different shades are applied to different words, and it's the first time I used it. And it just came along when I was developing the piece. I just thought, well, we can use the different words to have different shades of the colors. It was not an idea from the beginning, definitely not.
And it's a really efficient choice, not just for the kind of the real estate that we use for those features, but also for the reader. They don't have to go somewhere else to get the instructions. It's all contained in one panel.
I struggled a lot with that, especially with the boundaries of countries and regions. And this went to many different iterations to get it right, because it not only has to work on the map, but it also has to work on the chart later on, because the map, it morphs into the chart, so the boundaries have to work on the chart as well. And I also played a lot with the capital cities. If it was just a dark or black dot, it wouldn't be really visible on the darker area on the map. So I added some outer glow to those, so they work both on light and dark backgrounds. And as you say, I also played a lot with the gray color for the countries outside of the EU. So yeah, there was a lot of experimentation to get those things right.
Thank you for joining us for this Explore Explain highlights episode. As always, the full episode is available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. We hope to see you again soon on another episode of Explore Explain.